First question, overnight, Did you change your mind in any way?
Nope. So first off, Bonnie, thanks for having me on. And I absolutely did not change my mind overnight. I'm very convinced this is Amazon bluffing, trying to get the government back to the table, and the story isn't over here. So
you think it's some kind of game theory where Amazon is pretending to walk away and New York City state leaders will run after Amazon, try and extend the glove? The only person I've seen doing that so far is Governor Murphy of New Jersey. I don't see anybody in New York trying to do that.
So I would argue it's gamesmanship on both sides, by the governor of New York, by the mayor of New York, and by Amazon, the company. So if you look at Amazon's history, they're incredibly shrewd when it comes to negotiating with governments. Governments of all sizes, local governments, federal governments, U.S., international. This goes back to the days, remember, when they started collecting sales tax, and it would basically be Amazon would start collecting sales tax in exchange for adding fulfillment center jobs as they added fulfillment centers to different states across the U.S. So I think Amazon's very shrewd, and I view them as playing either poker or chess, depending on what your favorite game is here.
So who makes the first move next? I mean, in whose interest is it to, reach out once more? Amazon clearly is playing hardball here, and so are de Blasio and Cuomo.
So I would argue in this instance, both New York City and Amazon have a lot to lose here. For New York City, I think this is beneficial, not just on a next 10-year basis, but 25 years further out. Think of the transformation of Seattle. Go back 10 years, go back 20 years, and think of Seattle today. I think a lot of that's due to Amazon. And then for Amazon, if they truly lose New York City, it affects two of their important initiatives, media and advertising. And then to the extent the second headquarters was intended to give them access to more talent, where could they get more talent than the largest city in the U.S., New York? So I think both sides have something on the table here.
There are obviously huge positives for both sides, and everyone acknowledged that. It was chosen. So, it was obviously agreed upon that New York was the best fit for Amazon. However, it does feel like Amazon will look for something more now if it does decide to come back once more. So more tax breaks or something else. And it got all that New York was willing to concede. So why would New York suddenly decide, okay, you can come back, we'll forgive you, and we'll also give you something else?
Sure, Vonnie. So I'd argue the more they want now is more support. They want Governor Cuomo's support to make sure that ultimately their plans are put in place. So it sounds like the focal point, or what may have tipped the scales on a short-term basis, was an individual appointed to a panel that may veto Amazon's plans. Well, I think Governor Cuomo may have the influence to change that person's opinion.
It's obviously one of the first examples of gentrification that's been stalled like this that I can think of in recent memory on this kind of a scale. Local residents are very, very mixed on this. Polls suggest that they wanted Amazon there, but at the same time, there was a lot of celebration yesterday at the news, particularly among Queen's politicians. What would change that if Amazon were to suddenly turn around and say, okay, all is forgiven? Would it really be welcome now?
So I would argue a lot of that was grandstanding. And as they think about the implications over an extended period of time, they'll realize it's ultimately a stake for New York not to have Amazon. So again, I think the net benefits to Long Island City from having a second headquarters there for Amazon are very significant. It could transform the city over time, definitely will add jobs, high-paying tech jobs to New York. And I think all those things are important, which is why I don't think the story's over here.
If Amazon can go basically anywhere and can get even more concessions in other places, then why should it bother with New York?
Again, so if you think about the benefits to Amazon of being in New York, in addition to what I talked about as far as the large labor force, media, advertising. So if you look at historically, Seattle's been kind of a beta testing ground for Amazon. Amazon Fresh launched in Seattle. Amazon Go launched in Seattle. So think about what they could do in New York for their first-party delivery efforts. All the beta testing they could do on getting products to consumers very quickly. Advancing their grocery delivery efforts, things of that nature. So I do think that Amazon wants to be in New York ultimately.
Okay, well, let's for the moment pretend that it doesn't happen, at least for right now. That maybe it happens down the line. Do you still maintain your 12 to 18 month target of 2,450? And if so, can Amazon afford to not hire these 25 people anywhere?
The answer is yes on this basis. So if you think about the story of Amazon right now, we talk about it being profit incorporated. Their cloud computing, advertising, and third-party retail efforts are all growing quickly and driving the profitability of Amazon. You saw this in particular in the June quarter, where their earnings per share were twice the level of expectations. So while I do think that this would be a negative for Amazon, losing New York, I don't think it'll negatively affect shares over the next 12 months.
De Blasio came out and sort of excoriated Amazon for saying, you know, you really should have made more of an effort. Scolded Amazon.
Yes.
How would you advise someone like De Blasio now if he does think that there's still a chance and he does want Amazon to come back?
Sure.
What should he do?
So I would say he ultimately, as mayor of New York, has to look himself in the mirror and say, what is best for New York? And I think what you had here was a loud minority pushing Amazon out, where again, I think the majority want Amazon here. When he realizes that, hopefully he'll come back to the negotiating table with Amazon.